So you did a raw milk cleanse or a raw milk fast for how many days?
7 days.
Wow.
And it was life-changing.
What are some of the differences between milk from 100 years ago and the milk that most people buy today?
Well, if you're getting the pasteurized milk, especially these ultra-pasteurized, ultra-homogenized milks, all of the good enzymes, all of the good bacteria are completely destroyed. I worked at a dairy farm. The way that you have to do raw milk is 1,000 times cleaner than how you do pasteurized milk.
True. Everyone gets sick from drinking conventional milk. I mean, you may not have food poisoning in that instant, but it's disrupting your digestive system. It's increasing your likelihood of candida. It is, in a way, making you sick. Do you brush your teeth?
On occasion, when I'm eating really healthy, especially the raw milk and these kind of things, it really feels unnecessary to go and just be like this teeth-brushing Nazi every single day.
Yeah.
I haven't shampooed my hair in about a year and a half. I haven't used deodorant in about 4 years. Again, like the toothpaste, I just don't need it. But here's the thing that I think about health with all the things that I do. I'm very ancestral. I think about our ancestors, right? And now in this new kind of biohacking world of health, there's all these new things that you should do, the mouth tape, the methylene blue, stuff like that, like all these different things. And for me, I'm like, it's very simple. Like what our ancestors used to do, that's really what I'm going to try and do.
All right, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about everything from raw milk, should you drink it or not. We'll be talking about should you brush your teeth, should you wash your hair. We're going to talk about that and so much more in today's episode. I've brought on Will Witt. He was the face of the conservative movement, now turned farmer and raw milk enthusiast. He actually reversed a chronic disease in gout doing an all-milk diet for 7 days. We'll talk about that and more. Will, welcome to the show. Excited you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Well, man, it's, again, I'm excited to have you. I remember watching you, especially through COVID, really put out a lot of content about sort of politics and even about food and a number of things and was so impressed. And then I remember reading or seeing you post on social media just a couple years ago that you sort of went from conservative commentator to, farmer, growing fruit trees and, buying raw milk and a number of things. So, I wanted to have you on because I know this is something you've really sort of dove full into over the last few years. And one of the big things is the dairy industry. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about why you went from this sort of conservative commentator to really focusing on food and farming.
It's a huge question. I guess I'll say first that raw milk tastes better than a lot of the stuff you get at these political events, so that's probably number one.
Yeah.
But other than that, I got diagnosed with gout when I was 24. This is when I was working at PragerU. And, at that time, you're just like any other 24-year-old guy. You're not really thinking about your health. You're invincible. But it felt like I had rocks in my feet everywhere I was walking. And what 24-year-old guy is getting gout? So I went to the doctor, and they basically just say, no more red meat. And that was it.
Yeah.
There was no lifestyle changes, nothing about here's what you should be doing every day, nothing like that. And so I cut out the red meat and kind of went not necessarily vegan, but basically, and nothing helped. It didn't help me at all. And so I started looking other things up online, and it was like, hey, what about actually more red meat? What about more saturated fat? What about raw dairy? It was the Weston A. Price Foundation was hugely instrumental in all this, an increase in cholesterol, these kind of things. And I tried that because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I can't walk. It's not working. And it completely changed my life. And I've been gout-free for years living this way. And this was about 4 or 5 years ago when I first got diagnosed. And
so let me get, so you were able to reverse your gout by eating more red meat, more raw milk, and the things that most of these doctors say you need to stay away from.
Exactly. It also went with getting on the earth, grounding, the sunlight, moving around more, not going out and drinking, these kind of things, these lifestyle changes, getting better sleep, just living a more stress-free type of lifestyle. And all these things compounded to make me just into a very healthy person. I felt great.
Wow. I love it, man. So cool. Well, there are a lot of remedies that I typically do for gout, and some of these you've shared with them. There are other things like you maybe read about them, tart cherry juice and celery seed. But the key there, obviously, as you were able to do, is reduce uric acid. And one of the things that a lot of times I think people think of when they think of sort of trying to treat their ailment is, well, if I have high cholesterol, I need to eat less cholesterol. Oh, if I have uric acid, I need to have less acid in my diet. That's the way people think about it, but that's really not the case. Typically, it's we need to get your body back in line with the way God created it and living in tune with the earth. And one of the things I sort of hear you alluding to over and over and over again is sort of getting back to living the way God designed us, really connected with the earth. And I think there are so many habits and things I've read up on you of that you do, everything from, which we'll get into, hey, brushing your teeth, if you do it or not, which we'll touch on that, shampooing your hair, using conditioner, again, drinking raw milk and getting those things. I want to start off with the raw milk thing, though, because this is something that's become very popular. I think I'm curious. Do you know Alex Clark?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was on her show. She's fantastic. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. She's great.
Yeah, I figured you guys have a similar sort of conservative to farming and food background, and so I know she's been talking about this, and I know that I've been talking to raw milk for about 20 years, and part of it is one of my best friends literally cured his Crohn's and colitis with raw milk. Yeah. And so and it's sort of crazy this sort of what's happened over the past 50 years of this, us going after the government, specifically going after people selling raw milk. I'd love to hear, in your research and reading up, what turned you on to, raw milk as sort of a remedy for your health issues?
Well, first, so it was the gout, and that was kind of the first thing, but it wasn't too much. I was just like, oh, this is good, and it's got some health benefits. So actually, I read a book. It's from the 1930s. It was called The Milk Diet as a Cure for Chronic Illness.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was an amazing book, and I read it, and I said, well, I got to try this. I got to see if this is actually legitimate. And so my ex-girlfriend and I, we actually did it together. We did a raw milk fast along with the other protocols. So for me, with my body weight and what I was hoping to do, it was 6 ounces of raw milk every 30 minutes for about 12 hours a day, and then you would have a warm bath, you would have walking around, and you relaxed a lot. And oh my goodness, it feels like a euphoria that you have doing this. People would think, oh, you must be so hungry, because I wasn't having any other food, I wasn't having any water, it was only the raw milk. And afterwards, I felt great. I felt absolutely astronomically good after that.
So you did a raw milk cleanse or a raw milk fast for how many days?
7 days.
Wow.
And it was life-changing. And so then after that, because everyone was talking about the raw milk, and it's gotten very popular. I've been kind of doing it, not as long as you. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years.
Still, yeah.
But last year, I decided I want to go work at a raw dairy farm. I want to see what it's all about. So actually, in Brooksville, Florida, I worked at this farm called Irish Acres for about 5 months, completely for free. It was more like an apprenticeship, right? Because I wanted to see how it was all done. Like, is it really so dirty? Is it really so bad as these people say? Everything like that. So I went there, and you're milking the cows twice a day, every single day, working on the farm, seeing how it works, seeing how the regenerative farming happens with, rotating the cows and having the chickens come on and eat the poop and, everything like that, and how it all worked. And, I can truly say that after doing a fast, after drinking it for years, after working on the farm, I think raw milk is truly the most important thing in the health stuff that we can do. I really think that.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the things that in terms of overall, I would say it's one of the things, if not the thing that's changed the most to what people were consuming in its original state 100 years ago. I think the other big one following that would probably be our grains today.
Yeah.
But I would say milk and grains are radically different today than back. I was telling you, Jordan Rubin and I wrote this book called The Biblio Diet. And in the book, we really get into the foods that are most referenced in the Bible are red meat and bread and dairy. And then things like salt, you know, so those are the most, and then olive oil's up there too, pretty high on the list.
Honey.
And honey. Yeah, that's referenced as well. So these are things like, if you look at the American Medical Association, they will tell you no dairy, no red meat, no salt, to stay away from these foods. But the reality is they can be incredibly healing foods. But milk today, I'd love you to walk through what are some of the differences between milk from 100 years ago and the milk that most people buy today.
Well, if you're getting the pasteurized milk, especially these ultra-pasteurized, ultra-homogenized milks, all of the good enzymes, all of the good bacteria are completely destroyed. These are the things that are so good. And it also makes it so that a lot of the vitamins that are in it, vitamin A, vitamin B12, vitamin K2, raw dairy is basically the best place that you can get vitamin K2 out of really any other food.
Yep.
And it's basically completely destroyed when you pasteurize the milk. You're not going to be able to use these sort of nutrients nearly as well if it's pasteurized. It's this dead milk that really doesn't have any sort of nutritional value, and it's why so many people have health problems. People talk about skin problems, or they get bloated or anything like this when they're drinking or eating pasteurized dairy, because it just doesn't have that bioavailability of nutrients that something raw has, where you can actually use those things in it. And it's great for your gut, it's great for your skin, it's great for your hair, your teeth, your brain, because all the other stuff in it. It's truly nature's perfect food. I mean, that's what it's made for, right? It's made for an animal that is only sustaining itself off of this one thing. So it has to have every single thing in it that can provide for you. And that's exactly what the milk does, you know. But the whole reason of the pasteurization and everything is just because of the Industrial Revolution and what happened there with the introduction of the cows into the cities. And then they had the swill milk because they were feeding them all the runoff from the beer plants. And that milk turned blue, it was disgusting, horrible raw milk. Of course, you're going to get sick from that, and these cows are treated like absolute garbage. So then, Louis Pasteur comes in and says, well, we just got to pasteurize all the milk now. And they did that, and they've never really gone back. There's never really been a good conversation where they're like, well, what if we do the raw milk in a very regenerative, healthy way as it used to be a long time ago, as again, reading the Weston A. Price and seeing what these people would do. I mean, these people like the Maasai tribe and stuff, they would have milk and they would leave it out from their goats or something for weeks, and it would get clabbered, and then they drink it. And it was so healthy and nutritious. I mean, so high in cholesterol and all these things. There's some of the healthiest people in the world doing this. But now it's people won't even leave a glass of milk out on their counter for 5 minutes,
Yes.
It's completely gone the other way. And we haven't had any conversations about if we do raw milk the right way, it truly is a perfect food. But people always look back to that time and say, well, it must be so horrible because so many people got sick or TB from this swill milk that happened in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. I mean, people throw the baby out with the bathwater, constantly with this, and I think just so everybody maybe can grab a hold of this, how different it is today as well. And you hit on some really, really key points: the pasteurization, the homogenization, what we're feeding them. There's all kinds of things. One of the things I know you and I were discussing was even the genetics of the cows, this A1 versus A2. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see things labeled as A2 dairy today. And that has to do with, at some point, probably with the breeding of these Holstein cattle, basically, and this happens with almost all food. People try and breed certain animals together or hybridize certain grains together, foods together, to make it more sweet or easier to eat. We've done this with fruits. You've probably seen pictures of this. What does the original banana look like? And most of the fruits had bigger and more seeds, right? Yeah. Bananas had these bigger seeds, but we've bred it to where it's more sweet for the most part, and it's seedless, which, again, seedless fruits, that's going to be a whole nother discussion maybe we'll get into here in a minute. But we've done the same thing with cows, where we said, okay, we want to breed cows to where they produce more and more and more and more milk. We want it to be sweeter, but at some point, there is a genetic variation, just like a lot of people today have a genetic variation of MTHFR or not being able to detoxify mold. Cows had a genetic variation of now having A1 casein in their milk, to where this is a casein, it's a protein, like gluten's a protein, that's really inflammatory for a lot of people. And so a lot of people have sensitivities, and they think, oh, I'm allergic to dairy. No, you're allergic to this one type of dairy because it doesn't have the right type of the ancient genetics, or it has this genetic variant. So that's why people want to buy A2. The other thing for everyone out there, if you're buying dairy, is making sure that it's grass fed. It's living off the land, as Will said, eating swell. I mean, today, many of you have probably seen this. I mean, cows are eating candy and candy corn and just absolute garbage. Sprayed glyphosate sprayed grains today. And then again, organic, that's another important thing there. So there are so many things, and then not being pasteurized, not being homogenized, because when you're drinking dairy today, for most people, you are getting basically allergies in a bottle. I mean, you can't digest the lactose. You can't digest the casein because, as Will mentioned, all the enzymes, all the probiotics are destroyed, versus raw milk, especially if it's fermented. That's a whole nother level. I mean, it is the most probiotic-rich food on the planet by far. Highest levels of, as he mentioned, of fat-soluble vitamins, which we know Weston A. Price discovered. And so it's a true healing food. I think about this as well, nursing mothers. It's like babies are given milk.
Exactly.
And so it really
so
can
obvious.
be an amazing healing food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's so sad about this is that I was just at my sister's wedding over the weekend, right back in Colorado. And congratulations to her. And I'm talking to all these people at the wedding, and they kind of know, like in my speech to her, I said, cheers to me being the crazy conspiracy theorist uncle, And so like all these people kind of know me as that. And I start talking to some people about raw milk and some of this health stuff. And they're just like, I would never try raw milk. I'm like, why not? Like, why would you never try this?
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, it's just disgusting. Like, look at it. It just looks gross. It's just disgusting.
What are we even talking about?
Exactly. But they have no idea. People have been completely brainwashed when it comes to this, many of these health kind of things just by the media and,
when they're picturing, are they picturing like dirt or hay in it or what? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's so disgusting. I'm like, I worked at a dairy farm. The way that you have to do raw milk is 1,000 times cleaner than how you do pasteurized milk.
True, yeah.
Because when you pasteurize the milk, you're like, well, who cares? I'm just going to burn all this stuff, heat it up so hot, it doesn't really matter if I get all this garbage in it. But when we were doing the raw dairy, the number one thing that was the worst part about the job was the cleanup after you milk the cows. It took 2 hours to clean up after you milk the cows in the morning and the evening before you could even go and do other farm chores, because you had to clean all the milking machines profusely. You had to clean the vat. You had to make sure that the cows were 100% clean on their udders and everything that they were doing. It was the most cleanly thing I've ever had to do in my life. And so the way that people think, again, it's so disgusting. I would never have this. The raw milk is so much cleaner than any pasteurized milk you could really ever
And it's
get.
so much safer because you have all of these natural bacteria in there and vitamins and minerals to actually help protect you.
Yeah.
Vitamin D even, vitamin K. I mean, it's, yeah.
But people think that's gross to be exposed to these kind of things without realizing that these are the things that make up your gut microbiome to help you protect your body, to make you into a healthy person who can go out into the world and not get sick every day, all these kind of things. But they just hear like, oh, that's straight out of the cow. That must be disgusting. It's warm. It's warm. Like,
Well, it's not hard. Listen, you can throw it in the refrigerator for 4 hours and then it's cold if that's what you want.
Yeah.
I'm a big Weston A. Price fan, and so I love that you brought him up. And one of my first, so I've been doing podcasts for a while, and one of my first, I want to say 10 guests was Sally Fallon,
cool.
Who runs Weston A. Price Foundation. It was so funny as a side note. I also had Joel Furman on, who is more of a vegan vegetarian. And when I had them both on, it was like back to back. They both were like very, they didn't love one another. There was no love lost between the two because they just so vehemently disagreed with one another. But as I started studying Weston A. Price, as you mentioned, the Maasai tribe, one of the things I know he discovered as a dentist was, so many people in America, their teeth were rotting and falling out early. He noticed all this gingivitis and tooth decay and things. And then the Maasai tribe, as you mentioned, they had these glowing, beautiful white teeth. And he wanted to discover why that was. And one of the things he discovered was their milk consumption, as you mentioned. And he sort of noted, I know in his notes, was the biggest reason was consuming this type of dairy. It's high in fat-soluble vitamins and minerals. And when you look at kids today, and the greatest deficiency in our children, it's fat-soluble vitamins and oftentimes minerals as well. And this is what we need for our teeth. So this leads me into one of the things I want to ask you about is, do you brush your teeth? Most people have no idea that the pan they used for breakfast this morning may have released the same forever chemicals found in contaminated drinking water. In fact, U.S. Poison Centers reported 267 cases last year of people getting sick from the toxic fumes released by their nonstick pans. That's why I want to tell you about 360 Cookware. They make premium stainless steel cookware that's free of toxins like PFAs, PTFEs, and PFOAs. No chemical coatings, just pure, high-quality steel. It's handcrafted in the United States, built to last a lifetime, and designed with something called vapor technology. This lets you cook at lower temperatures while locking in flavor and nutrients so your meals actually taste better and support your health. They've thought of everything from oven safety up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit to compatibility with any cooktop, including induction. And yes, they back it with a lifetime warranty. This is cookware you can feel good about using every single day. I want to encourage you to head on over to 360cookware.com and use the code ACTS20 to get 20% off your order. This is a simple change that makes a big difference in your life, for your meals, for your health, and for your peace of mind.
On occasion.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
I haven't used toothpaste in quite a long time. I find it to be completely unnecessary. If I'm really doing something important, I might use like some baking soda
Yeah.
for my teeth, but I have found it just totally unnecessary and haven't needed it. My teeth they feel great. Even just went to the dentist, a holistic dentist, and they said my teeth were great. And I'll brush my teeth occasionally to break up the biofilm and things like that. But to be honest, the reason why I don't use any toothpaste or anything like that is because just like your gut, you have a natural microbiome in your mouth that protects you from all sorts of things. For my entire life, I struggled with canker sores. When I would get stressed, when maybe I would have acidic foods or anything like that, I would always get these awful canker sores. And they were like debilitating. You get on your tongue and on the side of your mouth ever since I was like 4 years old. But actually stopping the toothpaste has made it so that I really haven't gotten canker sores at all. I used to struggle with tons of cavities as a kid, really sore gums, and now it has gotten so much better. Don't have really any of those kinds of issues anymore because I think of cutting this out, because my body naturally protects itself in my mouth. Obviously, because we're not perfect. Sometimes I eat poorly and don't do the right things and things like that. Then I'm definitely going to go and brush my teeth and make sure that I, try and clean it up. But when I'm eating really healthy, especially the raw milk and these kind of things, it really feels unnecessary to go and just be like this teeth brushing Nazi every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of the things I think people don't realize about milk as well is just actually how alkalizing it is and supportive for your bone and your teeth structure. I mean, many people know this, but areas like your fingernails, your teeth, your bones, I mean, they're made of very similar minerals and compounds like collagen. And when you're drinking milk, one of the things that happens to a lot of people is they have a really poor diet. Their body, because it's deficient in minerals, our bodies will start to pull alkaline minerals out of the bone. And so in order to keep sort of your body's pH more normal. We see this sometimes. I had a PhD on here. His name is Dr. James Nicolantonio, and he talked about this a little bit in terms of if people are just straight carnivore only, if they only eat meat, or if they're eating just a very processed American diet, that can start to happen over time, versus milk is the exact opposite. You're giving your bones and your body pretty much everything it needs to get stronger and better. And I would also just encourage people, number one, go out and get raw milk. Find your local farmer's market. Yeah. Now, I know in the state of Tennessee and where you're at, Florida, it says for pet consumption only. Well, we just pull off that sticker or leave it on, and we drink it. We may give some to our pets as well. And just, we just don't, there's just really no concern for us in that. But, get to know your local farmer, go out and seek them out. And then on another option is you can get raw cheeses from goat's milk and sheep milk, even at places like Whole Foods Market or certain stores out there. And that's a great source of a lot of these vitamins and minerals as well.
That Parmigiano Reggiano in Whole Foods, that's wrapped in the saran wrap, that's raw Parmesan. And it's super tasty and raw. And you can get it's probably the greatest snack there is, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can get just a little block of it, and it's going to be 20 grams of protein, full of all these things that you need, still raw, like I said. And yeah, definitely. You can get these kind of things in different places that are more common. It's just the milk is harder to get than really anything else. The raw cheeses are a lot easier, and I think people are starting to come around more. But the milk, like in Colorado, where I'm originally from, you had to do the herd share there. So there isn't even an option for pet consumption only. You have to basically be an owner of the cow of the farm to then get some, once a week or whatever like that. But honestly, working at the raw dairy farm, when you have it for pet consumption only, some of the farmers will agree that it's actually almost better in that way, because in the sense, let's say someone drank the raw milk and they got sick, which is very unlikely to happen, but let's say they did, right? Well, they could come back to the farmer and say, well, I'm going to sue you for this raw milk. It got me sick, but the farmer says, well, this is for pet consumption only. I don't know why you're drinking. It's clearly on the label that this is it. So in a way, it somewhat protects the farmers in that way, because obviously everyone's just going to drink the raw milk anyway. But some farmers have told me that they'll say it's really not that bad to have it just for pet consumption only.
One of the arguments I would make for raw milk versus this conventional milk as well is that when somebody drinks raw milk, they pretty much never get sick. Maybe there's one out of every 100,000, and of course it's not killing them. They just they get food poisoning.
More likely with deli meat than with raw dairy.
Well, but with my point with that too is everyone gets sick from drinking conventional milk. Mm-hmm. I mean, you may not have food poisoning in that instant, but it's disrupting your digestive system. It's increasing your likelihood of candida. It is, in a way, making you sick every time you're drinking it for the most part. Now, I do think there are some quality brands that are pasteurized, that are not homogenized, that are fermented. There's probably like goat milk yogurt, sheep milk yogurt. In fact, my daughters, we did some sheep milk yogurt this morning that
Nice.
was from, I want to say, Cheatham Farms, if you're familiar. And they kind of do everything right, but do a very short time of a pasteurization. But we try and get raw whenever we can and do that mostly. But all that being said, I think you can get some things in the grocery store that are still good, but it's still never as good as raw when you're getting it from your local farmer, as Will here is talking about. One of the things that I've also wanted to ask you about is, I remember I did this one summer in high school, but I guess you're still doing it, is not washing your hair. Talk to me about that. And I can share some things too. Would love to hear your take on that.
Well, here's the thing that I think about health with like all the things that I do. I'm very ancestral. I think about our ancestors, right? And now in this new kind of biohacking world of health, there's all these new things that you should do, the mouth tape, the methylene blue, stuff like that, like all these different things. And for me, I'm like, it's very simple. Like what our ancestors used to do, that's really what I'm going to try and do. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I'm in jeans and a shirt right now, but I haven't shampooed my hair in about a year and a half. I haven't used deodorant in about 4 years. I just, again, like the toothpaste, I just don't need it. Like for a month, you'll have pretty greasy hair as your body adjusts and everything like that. But now my hair feels great. It's not going to ever feel like squeaky clean like we use shampoo, but your hair has natural oils that it uses to protect itself.
Yeah.
Like your body was designed to have all of these different things that naturally work to protect it.
Yeah.
And all these different things that we do with this, I guess I'll say it, like massive cleanliness movement that has come about in the last, 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Destroys all of the natural ways that your body defends itself from all sorts of things. And so for me, I've had the best hair of my life not using shampoo, not using conditioner, only water. And people say, well, how does it stand up? Do you use any product? Do you do anything? It's like, no, I don't do anything. I just water.
Wow.
And that's it. And it's been super successful for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know my wife and I, we had read about this quite a few years ago. And so I want to say like once a week, and my wife has something very specific she does in her hair, but it's not constant. To your point, to not strip out the natural oils, because again, you sort of deplete yourself. You do deplete yourself in some of those natural oils and compounds you want for hair health over time.
Also the hair loss. People who struggle with hair loss find that when they stop using shampoos and conditioners, their hair starts to naturally grow back if they're eating a diet rich in a lot of things that will help with that. But, you don't have to go to Turkey to get your hair implants. You can just stop using all these products in your hair, and you will find that you'll have the most full, voluminous hair really ever.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things like that. I'd probably say skincare routine might be similar to that. I mean, there's a number of things that people are kind of doing topically that are actually harming their body, because their body, you're sort of, it's kind of like this. It makes me think of this as, hormone replacement therapy. This is something that I know is very popular today. I try and have women, rather than do that, do a lot of focus on food as medicine, follow the right lifestyle, or even do things like, again, I have some really good herbal formulas for that. Peptides even, I think, are better, because when you're doing these hormones from the outside, your body stops producing them on their own. It's like if a man takes testosterone, they are essentially infertile for the most part once they start taking testosterone, because now their body stops producing it on its own. That's why their testes shrink when they get on testosterone. But a very similar thing, if you are constantly putting stuff on your hair and stripping your hair, there's some issues. Your body becomes depleted outside as it does inside in a lot of those cases as well.
Yeah, and that's, again, why I don't use deodorant either, because not using deodorant means that when you use deodorant, you're not able to detox all these things out of your body, right? It's a natural process. Like people always say, well, there are natural shampoos, there's natural toothpaste, there's natural deodorant, but the point is that your body is a natural process. That's why you don't use these things. I don't use deodorant because if I eat something poor, or I have toxins in me, maybe they're spraying in the skies or something like that, and I'm trying to detox, I detox through my pits, right? So when I'm blocking that up, I'm no longer going to be detoxing. Yeah. And I do notice that if I do eat poorly, I will smell worse than if I'm eating really healthy, which shows just like right there how natural it is to say, okay, I'm getting all these things out. You don't want to block that up and stop your natural processes from happening.
Yeah, Yeah. And I do think there are, maybe listen, for some of you, there might be a time and place for natural deodorant. But when you're doing it, a lot of times it's really about changing, sometimes supporting your pH and you never want to use an antiperspirant. You want to stay away from aluminum and all these things. And I don't know, for some people, it's something similar, just like baking soda. I mean, just something simple like that can be helpful. But to your point, I think there's a lot of things we're doing that's blocking our ability to detox and to heal and causing some of those issues. Let me ask you this, because you were very much on the ground during all the things going on during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those things that really sort of opened your eyes to things maybe you'd never thought about before as we were going through that whole the lockdowns and everything else? Cancer, dementia, heart disease, they're coming for so many people. And it's not just because of what most people think, which is that it's bad luck or bad genetics. The truth is, your daily choices are either creating health or setting the stage for disease, and your doctor is probably reading your blood work all wrong. They're missing the cellular issues behind the symptoms. I'm currently offering a simple at-home blood test that actually tests for the right things. And just as importantly, it comes with proper interpretation of the results. This new test flips the script. The future of interpreting test results is here. If you want to check it out and grab one before they're gone, just go to mybloodwork.com now.
Yeah, COVID was huge for me in my discovery of all these things and really sent me off in a different direction. A lot of conservatives at that time were not agreeing with what I was saying. Where I was the anti on the vaccine, I was the anti on any of the lockdowns, anti on all this stuff. And I was living in LA at the time. And so during that, it was the worst in the nation, really.
Yeah.
But what I liked about living in LA at that time, I will say, is that despite how horrible it was, I couldn't go anywhere without a mask, without a vaccine. And of course, I didn't do any of that stuff, so I'm constantly getting yelled at. But the conservatives, or the people who are fighting against that in LA, were the strongest, most adamant people I've ever met in my life, versus like during that time I went to Florida and nothing's going on. They're just living like completely normal, which is great that they don't have to deal with it. But it was cool in LA where you have these just ardently strong and hardcore people going against this stuff and really having to fight for what they believe in, that this is wrong.
Yeah.
And because of that, I spoke in front of LA City Hall to 50,000 people out for a huge rally against these lockdowns and things. This is like that sort of inspiration, that motivation changes people. It changes you into someone who says, okay, this is a real fight. We see what these people are doing. We have to put a stop to this. With the COVID and the masks and the vaccines, none of it was scientifically accurate. None of it actually worked. All of it was a psyop and a destruction of cohesiveness in America. And I saw right through it, I think, right from the beginning. And I couldn't stand for it. And I had to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. I think as we were going through that, there were so many people that I really gained respect for. Some people I maybe started to see in a different light as we went through that, because some people really stood up for their convictions and wanted to find the truth. I mean, that's something that I think going through that I started to respect and sort of see even more in people is this person committed to a dogma or ideology, or does this person truly want to know the truth? I mean, that's something I can truly say I really respected about everyone from Joe Rogan to Russell Brand to Jordan Peterson is, maybe at certain times I misaligned with some of the things they thought, but overall they wanted to know the truth, and those are the people also, I would say, now that have the most trust, because through that whole thing, people started to realize, oh, this person was honest. Oh, this person was right. And so now we see this whole shift of, you've probably seen this, the trust people have now in the media, in the conventional medical system, all-time lows.
Oh, yeah.
Vaccination rates in kids, all-time lows. All these things, all-time lows. And the amount of people homesteading, making sourdough bread at home, drinking raw milk again, home births, homeschooling, all-time highs.
There's a huge shift in all these different things. And I think what's so cool, because I would say the number one thing that you can't control about your health is what your parents did. If your parents were eating poorly or didn't live a good life or anything like that, your prenatal environment, all this, there's nothing you can do about it really at that point.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing now with all these new parents and these new people coming and giving their kids the right stuff, or maybe they're about to have kids and really getting into this health movement, I think we're going to see a complete downshift in the amount of autoimmune diseases and other types of chronic issues that we've seen happening in children right now for the last, 30, 40 years.
I totally agree. One of the things that I've been really encouraged by through this whole thing is I think that, I see sort of everything as having a spiritual component as well. And I think there's sort of this evil, sort of satanic influence throughout COVID of trying to lock people down, take away their freedom and all these things. But what happened was there's this thing where people instead, because this thing of, I want to know what the truth is. The other thing is I've seen Christianity become more popular, especially with Gen Z and other people, because people said, I want to know the truth. And if you truly, and as the Bible talks about, seek and you will find, like if you are trying to find the truth, oftentimes you'll find the truth. And this is leading more people to Christianity. It's leading people more towards faith. It's leading people more towards living in tune with nature and God's design. And so I've been more encouraged. I will say this, that first year of COVID, I got discouraged because I was like, what is wrong with people? I'm like, wake up. This is crazy. It's like every store I went into and everywhere I went, people were telling me to put on a mask and to lather my entire body with hand sanitizer. It was crazy. I'll tell you a quick story about Florida. So Chelsea and I, this was like 1 year. This is when the lockdowns were the absolute hardest. And we were in Tennessee, and we're in Franklin, kind of Williamson County, South area, and it was better than most places, a lot better. But still, people were very, very locked down. And we went to Florida. We went down to this area called 38. It's in the Panhandle. And I get down there, and one of the first stores I went into was, there was a Publix, and the store next to it was a Yeti shop where you get fishing gear and coolers and stuff. And so we were down there taking the first vacation we'd had. And I went in the store, and it was the first person I saw. He was behind the counter, and he wasn't wearing a mask. And I went in with my mask, and by the way, believe me, I had plenty of encounters where I didn't wear my mask and I tried to, educate people. They didn't want to hear it. But I walked in there, and I walk in, I kind of see him, and I kind of pulled my mask, and I said, do I need to wear a mask in here? And here's what he told me. He goes, "This is America." And I go, all right, that's great.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm like, welcome to Florida.
Yeah, Florida was great. I mean, that's why I moved there, partly because, again, I talked about being in LA and it was kind of cool and that, but at a certain point, you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is not what I want to be dealing with every day. I mean, I would walk into a grocery store, no mask, and you have some guy just come up to you and just start cursing you out.
Oh yeah.
And just saying just the most evil, horrible things to you. You never met this person before, and I'm just like, whatever, man, and all that. I couldn't go to a restaurant, couldn't go to a bar. I'm basically stuck at home because I refused to do the fake vaccine card too, because that means that, for me at least, it meant that I'm giving in. I'm saying what they're doing is what they're doing is okay, which wasn't okay. So I just always tell them no, and I just said I have to get out of here. So I moved to Florida, and it was a great decision. I love Florida, and the heat and the humidity does really well for me too. And the sun, I love as you can see by my tan. Yeah, I love the sun.
When you can actually, I remember going to California, and it's like, the water's so cold there, you can only swim in it in the summer. Outside of that, it's really, so I've been in Florida a lot. I mentioned my brother has a functional medicine clinic in Tampa. My parents live in Lakeland area there. Chelsea and I lived in West Palm Beach for a year. I went to school in Florida for about 3 years. So anyways, I really like Florida. In fact, side note, so Ron DeSantis, his wife Casey, she was Casey Black. I went to school with her. She was a year ahead of me in school, and great family, great people. So, I love what he's done. I would say in terms of governing a state, I can't think of anyone that's ever done a better job. Think about all the things they've been through as a state, and Ron DeSantis to me has just done, I would even say in terms of policy, I probably like him more than any politician I've ever been around, or seen some of his policies. Because, honestly, he was going against every other state pretty much in the country.
Yeah. Well, I think the great thing about it is, I think for so long, the people who are freedom-loving people or conservative people, whatever it is that you want to say, cared more about what the New York Times would write about them than what actually their constituents actually wanted. And I think that conservatives and these people have been on defense for far too long, right? They don't actually want to make the changes. They just want to say, oh, I'm against these people on the left or against these Democrats or whatever it is. But Ron DeSantis came in and said, well, I'm actually going to go on offense and change these things. We have a stacked majority in the House and the Senate. I'm the governor. Why would I not get these things done and turn Florida into this new bastion of freedom for people? And they've seen the results tenfold with the people who have moved there, the businesses that have moved there, the quality of life for people who live there. It's really like nowhere else. I can honestly say, living there, it has been awesome. Yeah, DeSantis, I think, has done a fantastic job. He hasn't been scared to do the things that he knows that people who are conservative or freedom-loving are actually going to like, and that's like nowhere else in the country.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know that you've started kind of your own farm where you live there as well. Talk to me about sort of, and again, this is something I have loved, is this natural farming movement. You know, I've started doing some farming more at the higher level in terms of not the day-to-day farming myself, but Jordan Rubin and I own 4,000 acres in Missouri, another 150 in Tennessee here. And we raise water buffalo, cows, goats, sheep. We do a lot of different fruit trees. We do a lot of things. And one of the things that we've been really focused on is building back topsoil. You know, this is such an issue today, is all the topsoil that's lost. But I know you're doing, the thing that I really respect about you is you're doing this yourself at your home. And there are so many people that can do a lot more than they realize. So walk us through, like, what are some of the things you've been personally doing in order to kind of create more of a sustainable, homestead for yourself?
Yeah, I can say I'm at no level with water buffaloes or anything like that. I'm doing the best that I can. But the number one thing, well, I will say this. When I was working at the dairy farm, tilling was something that I didn't really know too much about because I'd never really done farming before. And he's like, no, we can't do any tilling. Tilling will kill the soil and destroy all the nutrients in the soil. But every mass farm is doing the tilling, destroying the farm soil, making sure that no nutrients are actually getting to the plants. And then they just throw a ton of fertilizer on there and ruin the soil for generations, right? So it's not about the tilling. It's about cover crops and putting things on there that are regenerative and making sure that the animals move all around it. And so myself, what I'm doing, the basic thing that I'm doing is the fruit trees and the gardening, and that's been huge for me.
And do you do chickens at all?
No, I did chickens on the dairy farm, and I never slaughtered anything before, and then I had to slaughter 50 chickens in one day and process them and all that, and it was a sanctifying experience, taking this life and really looking at it as you could almost say a holy thing, but like really an important thing that is sacred with what you're doing, And of course, the first 2 chickens, I didn't do very well, and you feel awful doing it, but you practice and you get a lot better at it. And so I've done all that, but now, just on my space now, I haven't done any chickens.
Well, what are some of the fruit trees you're doing and some of the things you're doing gardening-wise? And in Florida, I'm sure it's growing. It can grow pretty well there, too.
Yeah, Florida's great for all sorts of growing stuff. Obviously, in the summer, you don't want to give them full sun because it's just too hot. But I got mangoes, passion fruit, banana, guava, oranges, lemons, grapes, cherries, plums, lemons, oranges.
Wow.
Yeah, a ton of stuff. And then for gardening, beans have done super well, tomatoes, carrots, all those kind of things. But really, what I really want to get into next is horticulture with flowers. That's what I really want to do. Yeah, trying to do. I'm reading this book called The Black Tulip. It's Alexander Dumas. He did The Three Musketeers, all that. And it talks about in the Dutch Golden Age how they used tulips for basically like currency almost. They were worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And reading it almost sounds like it'd be so cool to breed these flowers and try and do new varieties and stuff like that. So I really want to get into that next. That's kind of my next thing to do.
It's a real sort of... It's really artistry, doing that sort of thing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. If I can discover something new, that'd be so cool.
You can take back control of your metabolism, your energy, and your hormones naturally. I've put together an in-depth, practical training to help you balance your hormones using powerful foods, herbs, and natural lifestyle strategies that actually work. If you're ready to start feeling like yourself again, go to draxhormoneclass.com or click the link in the description to begin your healing journey today. That's draxhormoneclass.com to take back your health naturally. So you've got this pretty incredible thing you're doing, the Pure Basics Collective. Walk me through what that is.
So Pure Basics Collective is basically an e-commerce website where we take all these different brands who are making healthy, natural products and putting them in one place so people can do single cart checkout. You know this just as well as me. You walk into a Whole Foods, a Sprouts, a health food store, and it says clean, natural, simple on the label.
Yeah.
And then you look at the ingredients and it's a bunch of crap and garbage you would never want to put into your body.
Let me give you an example of this. I was in, Whole Foods recently. I mean, they're carrying Cheerios. I'm just, there are certain things that I just, anyways, keep
And the
going.
hot bar used to be so good at Whole Foods.
Oh, I know.
You remember 10, 15 years ago?
15 years ago. And by the way, the Florida hot bar at Whole Foods was amazing. I've been asking them to switch to extra virgin olive oil for forever. And I don't know why they don't just switch to olive oil. It's not that.
I don't know.
And it's actually not that hard.
No, it's really not that hard. But they just, it's gotten so bad. The pizza's gotten worse. The burritos have gotten worse.
Yeah,
Everything has gotten
I know.
worse. The bread.
Part of it happened when there was even a bigger shift when Amazon, I think, acquired them.
Yeah.
Is when I saw a lot of that stuff get worse there.
But the greenwashing at all these different places is just rampant. It's the same
Yeah.
on Amazon and all these different places that advertise healthy products for this stuff. And me, being, the caveman crazy person I am, I basically came in and said, well, we need a place where there is no greenwashing, where these small businesses who probably aren't very good at marketing, who probably don't have the money to run advertisements, who aren't in some big store, can have a place where people can go and buy their products. And so we have about right now just over 200 vendors, about 2,000 products of anything from home goods like pillows, earthing, grounding type of stuff, apparel, to food, supplements, all sorts of skincare, hair care, really anything you can think of. We're trying to really be like the no greenwashing Target, where you can walk in or go on our site and get really anything that you need of that healthy standard. It's definitely hard, when you're competing against something like Whole Foods, like Amazon, where Amazon has that Prime for just, whatever you want. And, we're working with small businesses. But I think that once people actually get the products in their hand and see it, they're like, wow, this is amazing. Like I see over there, you got the Noble protein powder. That's one of our vendors that we have. They're fantastic. All sorts of just really healthy, clean stuff on there.
Yeah. I love it. That's amazing. Where can people visit the store again?
So you can go to purebasicscollective.com. We're also all over social media, Pure Basics, Instagram, whatever like that, and check it out and let us know what you think.
I love it, man. So good. So I'm not going to lie, I was pretty disappointed when you didn't come in here wearing a pelt.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've done recently over the past few years, there are so many things people can do health-wise. And I've always tried to help people focus on the majors first. And then we get to the minors later. And an example of that would be, I think for some people, is number one, here's a major. Let's clean up your diet. Mm-hmm. Let's reduce stress. Let's have a spiritual growth technique. Let's walk more, right? Let's get better sleep. Like really focusing on those things, and then more of that sort of advanced sort of functional medicine and herbal medicine of let's take these herbs, let's do that. But then after that, there's things like, what are you wearing on your body? The Bible actually talks about this, not wearing actually certain types of fabrics together, because it actually they have different energetics and different effects on the body, and so you typically don't want to do that. And so recently, this past few years, I've switched to wearing almost all wool. So when I'm wearing around my house, I wear 100% wool pants, 100% wool shorts, wool top. Sometimes I do 100% organic cotton. I've done a little bit of bamboo, but for the most part, it's mostly wool, little cotton, little bamboo. What are your thoughts on that in terms of what we're putting on our bodies regularly in terms of our clothes?
That's huge. I mean, 60% of what you're putting on your skin is absorbed in like 26 seconds or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So when you're wearing these synthetic materials, especially for men and women, where they're wearing underwear or gym shorts or leggings or something like that, that's made of these microplastics or made of plastic that then leach the microplastics into your body, is absolutely one of the worst things you can do for your fertility, for your reproductive health, for anything like that. And the studies are starting to show that as well too. They've still showed it not just in humans, but in animals, doing these tests like very specifically with animals to see if it affects them. And it is. And we have these major issues right now with birth rates and reproduction and people not being able to conceive and all of this. And I think a huge part of that is what we're putting on our skin when it comes to the clothing.
Well, I think about this in Florida. You think about these golfers today.
Yeah.
When most of them are wearing 100% polyester. Mm-hmm. We know polyester is essentially plastic. Yeah. And that's the worst thing you could wear probably, or up there, one of the worst things. And then they're on all of these golf courses that are sprayed with just, voluminous amounts of chemicals. I mean, just crazy amounts of glyphosate and everything else. And so they're really being exposed a lot to a lot of chemicals regularly. But that's just an example of something that, hey, doing it once, that's not, your body can handle it. But it's just one of those things where you're not wearing the right materials, you're eating glyphosate, you have all these chemicals bombarding you. And this is how you do that for 10 years, 20 years. They all accumulate and you end up with autoimmune disease or cancer or IBD or some other health problem.
Yeah, and it's really sad for me because I'm a rock climber. I go bouldering.
Okay.
And those bouldering gyms, I mean, they're full of the chalk and the holds are all made of plastic for the most part and all that. And I feel really bad. I'm not going to stop doing it, you know, but it's like you feel a little bad knowing like, oh, man, I know what's in here. I know that I wish I could just be outside doing this every day. But when you live in Florida, everything is completely
all flat.
Yeah, there's nowhere to climb.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely no climbing. I spent some time in Claremont. I used to do triathlons, and so there was rolling hills there. But in terms of mountains or things to climb, there's not. I can't think of anywhere in Florida where that is.
No,
so.
There's literally nowhere in Florida, so it makes it a little tough.
Yeah. But and here's the thing for everybody. Listen, you got to pick your battles. We're not telling you overnight you need to not use toothpaste or use just clay and baking soda. We're not telling you. You have to switch all your clothing overnight. I think the big thing here, one of the big takeaway messages is, number one, what you've been told for a long time in terms of things like raw milk and the grains you eat and a number of things, you've been lied to over and over and over again. Get some raw milk in your diet. Get back to eating the way God intended. A lot of the foods that are talked about in the Bible, as we've talked about on the show before, I mean, that's a great place to start. And then, again, just live more in tune with the way our ancestors did. Live more in tune and connection with the earth. Walk barefoot more often, as I know Will's been doing himself. Start a home garden, maybe just an herb garden. That's where my wife and I started. We literally did parsley, cilantro, basil, and chives. And just cut them, had them in the windowsill. I started doing that. That eventually got a bigger one outside. Then we did a garden. Then we, just continue to expand over time. So I would say don't feel like you need to do everything overnight. Focus on the majors first. But next time, a lot of times, just replacement. Next time you're buying something, let's say it's shampoo. Well, or maybe you're not going to use it, or if you use it once a week like we do here, in a clean brand, or you're buying clothing. Next time you're going to buy something new, say, you know what? I'm going to go and buy organic cotton, or I'm going to buy wool, or I'm going to go to Pure Basics Collective.com and buy something from there because it's going to be clean. So, I used to always teach, shopping classes for patients, and so I would bring them up and down the aisles, and I found that was by far the most effective way for people to actually make a change is not try and change everything overnight. Start to make swaps. I'm not going to use canola oil anymore. I'm going to use extra virgin olive oil. I'm not going to use this white flour. I'm going to switch to an einkorn wheat. Making those simple switches in the future, that's the best way. It's the easiest way for most of you to do it. And also go to your local farmer's market is another great way to do this as well. Well, any last pieces of advice for everybody here in terms of living a more holistic lifestyle?
I think the biggest thing is honestly have an open mind. Because when it comes to these things, like, again, haven't used shampoo in a year and a half, haven't used deodorant, I drink raw milk, did a raw milk fast, I do all this crazy stuff, and people say, there's no way that can work. Even though they're looking at me right in the face, see my hair, it's fine, I don't stink, I'm living very healthy, I feel great every day, and they say, well, there's no way that can work. It's like, well, why can't it work? Because you've been told that these things are disgusting, or you're just not supposed to do it and you're going to die, or because you're unwilling to try. And I think that if people look at these kind of things, now I'm not saying you need to never shampoo again or do any of these things, but at least have an open mind and say, well, maybe I'd be willing to try it for a bit or try this new thing that someone's talking about and see if that would actually help me. Because I'm guessing that many people have tried these remedies that traditional Google searches on WebMD and whatever have told them, and they haven't done anything for them.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, okay, well, I guess it's just over for me, I'm screwed, say, well, maybe there's something else out there for me that is a little bit off the beaten path, a little bit out there, but I'm now willing to give it a try because I'm really out of options.
I love it. It's great advice.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for coming on today. It was a real blessing. You shared so much wisdom. I want to say, hey, if you're watching on YouTube, let us know, what is your biggest takeaway from what Will shared today and what we talked about? Everything from, are you going to start consuming raw milk? Have you consumed raw milk? Where do you get your eggs? are you going to change your clothing, to more natural clothing? We love to hear from you, some of those things and your biggest takeaways from the show here. And as always, thank you so much for listening here to the Dr. Josh Ack Show. Remember, each and every week we're diving deep into the science and principles of how you can heal physically, mentally, and spiritually. Also, there are millions of people that don't know the truth about things like raw milk. Do us a favor, help share this episode. More people need to know the truth. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Every time you subscribe, I can bring on bigger and better guests like Will here, who came on here today. So thanks so much for sharing. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you on the next episode.